Episode 1. The first door breathed. They say the first red door appeared in Detroit, but that's a lie. It didn't appear there. It was found there, like a secret that had been waiting for someone to notice it. No hinges, no frame, just a red door standing upright in an alley. No one remembered walking through. The man who opened it, his name was never in the papers, because when the police went to question him, his apartment was empty, his toothbrush was still wet, his coffee still warm, but every mirror in his home had been turned to face the wall. And on the back of each one, in red ink, Dawn T. Refleccord, ITS Washington TCHING. That was a year ago. Now the doors are everywhere. You don't see them until you need them. And by 10, it's too late. Her name is Kaya, trauma nurse, Chicago, first shift, sleeps in stairwells, forgets her own birthday, remembers everyone else's blood type. She first saw the door in the sub-basement of St. Ulrich's Hospital, a floor that didn't exist on the blueprints, but she was there because an elevator took her somewhere it shouldn't have. No lights, just concrete, a flickering exit sign that pointed nowhere, and the door, deep red, chipped at the bottom, standing in the middle of the hall, alone, silent, until she stepped closer, and it breathed, not wind, not air, just exhalation, like the space behind it had been holding its breath, and finally exhaled through the cracks in the wood. Kaya backed away, but something called her name, not loud, not spoken. It crawled into her skull like a thought that wasn't hers. Kaya, you've already opened it. She hadn't. Her hand was still at her side, her feet unmoved, but that door was now behind her. She turned. It didn't wait for permission. It opened itself. Darkness, not black, deeper, a shade your eyes forget how to process. She didn't remember walking through, but she remembered the sound, the click of a lock inside her chest, and the whisper, "You're a builder now." She woke in their supply closet. No memory, no blood, no wound, just her reflection in the metal cabinet door. But it wasn't exactly her. The reflection blinked slower, smiled wider, and in the corner of its mouth, red paint. Now, she sees doors everywhere. Subway tunnels, parking garages, hospital stairwells. Some are closed, some are open, but all of them breathe, and all of them know her name. Episode 2. The apartment with no number. The next door didn't appear in a hospital. It appeared 3 floors above Kaya's apartment. Unit 4. There was no number. There used to be. She remembered it. Everyone did. An old man named Mr. Lewin had lived there. Quiet, polite, paid in cash. No pets, no drama, no family. One day, he disappeared. The landlord said he moved out, but his plants were still in the window, his mail still piled at the door, and someone kept turning the light on at exactly 2:03 a.m. Kaya tried not to care. She was still trying to forget what happened in the sub-basement of St. Ulrich's. A red door, the breath, the thing that wasn't her in the mirror. But curiosity doesn't knock. It creeps. It coils around you like smoke. And one night, it led her to the 4th floor, barefoot, half asleep, or maybe not asleep at all. The hallway was longer than she remembered. The wallpaper peeled like skin after sunburn. The light above flickered in a pattern. Long, short, short, long, echoed. A warning. The door to 4 stood slightly open. No sound, no wind, only a feeling, like the air was watching. Kaya pushed the door open, and the hallway behind her disappeared. She didn't notice at first, because what she saw inside was herself, sitting at the table, staring out the window, hands folded, completely still. The copy didn't turn, didn't blink, but Kaya could feel it thinking. The room was wrong, too symmetrical, like a dream of an apartment, not a real one. Every book on the shelf was blank. Every picture frame held the same photo. A red door, just slightly ajar. She took one step forward, and the lights turned off. All at once. No sound, just sudden, suffocating black. Then breathing, but not hers, not human. It came from the ceiling, then the walls, then inside her ears. And a voice whispered, "This is where the forgotten versions of you live. You opened the door, now you're just the latest draft." She tried to run, but the floor wasn't there anymore. Only mirrors, endless, fractured, each one reflecting a different version of her life. In one she was smiling, in another dead, in another laughing with no face, and just before she screamed, she saw it, a door, red, in the reflection behind her. She turned, but the door wasn't behind her. It was inside her, pulsing beneath her ribs, waiting to open again. She woke up in her own bed, fully dressed, shaking, on her ceiling, drawn in faint red lines. 4 is still waiting, but when she ran upstairs, the hallway was normal again, 10 feet long, bright lights, and the door that had no number. Gone, replaced by a blank stretch of wall. Only Kaya saw the difference. Only Kaya could still hear the knocking. It wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from beneath her skin. Episode 3, Static in Her Bones. Kaya stopped listening to music, not because she didn't want to, but because now, every speaker whispered her name. Not the way people say it, not Kaya with breath and tone, but like it was being remembered. The kind of voice that hadn't said her name in centuries, and was angry that it had to speak it again. It started with the hospital radios, white noise during shift changes, crackles no one noticed, except her. Then came the vending machines, then the hallway intercom, then the silence itself. It all buzzed with static that knew her. She tried to ignore it, but then she started hearing things that hadn't happened yet, like conversations she hadn't had, or screams she didn't recognize, until they came true. One night, she heard a door slam through her apartment walls, but not any door she could touch. And, turn, a voice inside the static. The other side is building faster now. You're leaking. She turned off everything, unplugged the TV, removed her phone battery, tore the radio out of her car, and still, the sound came, not from machines, from herself. It started in her fingertips, a faint vibration, then her teeth, then her spine. By the third night, her bones buzzed with white noise. Her blood hissed in Morse code. She checked herself into the hospital, told them it was tinnitus, anxiety, stress. They hooked her up to a monitor, but the screen didn't show a heart rate. It showed a frequency, not random, not human, repeating, wet, 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 wet. The nurse laughed nervously. Equipment must be glitching. Kaya didn't laugh, because when the nurse left the room, the ECG machine began speaking directly, not printing, not beeping, speaking in static-laced words. The door inside you wants to open. Let us finish building. You're almost hollow enough. She ripped the wires out and ran through the halls, down the stairwell, to the underground parking lot, and saw it. A red door came peeling, standing between two parked ambulances. She turned away, but a reflection in the ambulance window. It walked through the door. She watched herself vanish into a place that wasn't there. And when she looked again, there was no door, no reflection, just a faint echo coming from inside her chest. You can't hide a doorway, Kaya, when you are the hallway. Episode 4, The Boy Who Sketched the Door. He couldn't speak, not since the fire, not since the night. His mother disappeared behind a door no one else could see. They found him alone, naked, unburned, but holding a crayon in each hand, drawing the same thing over and over. A red door, standing in the middle of an empty room. No walls, no frame, just space, and something black leaking out from underneath. They moved him to St. Elric's, 3rd floor, psychiatric wing. Kaya wasn't supposed to be there. Her badge didn't scan, but the elevator brought her anyway. She didn't question it anymore. Some parts of the hospital belonged to them now. The boy's name was Simon, 7 years old. Didn't speak, didn't blink often, but he drew. Every hour, every page. Red door, black shadow, a pair of eyes peeking through the crack. At first, Kaya thought it was trauma, grief, repetition therapy, but then she looked closer. Every door Simon drew was slightly different angles, different shadows, different shapes, as if he weren't drawing the same door again and again. But every new one that appeared, from every sea, she asked for his file. It had been sealed, not by the hospital, by something above it, something with no name, just a red stamp, do not follow. She visited Simon anyway. He looked up from his sketchpad and locked eyes with her. No fear, no curiosity, just recognition. He turned the page. This time, he didn't draw a door. He drew her, but not as she was, as she had looked on the night she opened her first door. Same clothes, same hair, same expression, but behind her, drawn in brutal black, charcoal, a version of Kaya, without a face, and written in messy red strokes at the top of the page. She lives in the hallway now. Kaya frownsy, her mouth dry, her body already shaking because Simon began to draw again. Quick, frantic lines, a building, a floor, a door, and beneath it, a sentence she didn't read. She heard, the next door opens in the school. That night, she drove to Simon's old elementary school, abandoned, condemned, boarded for over 6 years. But the gate was open. Inside, the walls were covered in drawings, hundreds, each red door different, all drawn by different children, signed with names that didn't match any enrollment records. In the center of the gymnasium, a single chair facing a blank wall, and on that wall, a door, painted, but it was wet, fresh. She touched it, and it breathed back, From the gymnasium speakers came a voice. Simons, speaking for the first time. You opened the first door, Kaya. The rest are just following you home. Episode 5. She knocked 3 times. They called her the rooftop prophet. No legal name, no records, only footage, grainy clips from cell phones and security cams. She appeared on the roofs of apartment buildings, always barefoot, always at night, always speaking to something no one else could see. And before she disappeared, she would knock 3 times on the air. No wall, no door, just sky. People thought she was mentally ill, possessed. Until one night, she knocked on the roof of a housing complex in Bridgeport, and a red door appeared behind her. Kaya found the woman by accident, or maybe she was led by the same static energy, the same subtle tug behind her navel that now guided her like a compass toward doors that didn't belong. It was raining hard. She climbed 13 stories. No lights, just the rhythmic hum of something ancient vibrating in the stairwell rails. When she reached the roof, the woman was already waiting. She was young, hair tangled, eyes hollowed with knowing. She didn't turn when Kaya stepped forward. She just asked, "How many doors have you opened now?" Kaya didn't answer, because deep down, she wasn't sure the number was still finite. The woman smiled without joy. She raised a trembling hand, knocked on the air beside her. Once, twice, 3 times. The sky tore, not with thunder, with a sound like flesh unraveling from wood, and there it was, a red door, standing on the rooftop. Impossible, inevitable. The prophet turned to Kaya. You opened the first because you were hollow. Now they want you to carry the next one inside. Kaya took a step back, but the door pulsed. It didn't open, it breathed, and from its cracks leaked a fog, black, thick, humming with language Kaya didn't recognize, but somehow understood. Whispers scraped the edge of her skull. Kaya, you are the hallway between cities. The next one will be built beneath your ribs. The prophet began to cry, but her tears were not water. They were red, thin, shiny, like wet paint sliding down her cheeks. She whispered, I thought I could carry it for them, but I was only ever a knock. Then she vanished, not like a person stepping through a door, but like a sentence ending in silence. The red door stood alone, silent. Watching her, Kaya didn't approach. She just whispered, not yet, and walked away, but she knew it was too late, because as she descended the stairs, her heartbeat fell into a new rhythm. 1, 2, 3, and with each beat, a door began to form inside her. Episode 6. The echo under the train tracks. Cities hum. You don't notice, but until you're beneath them, beneath the metal, beneath the concrete, beneath the history they tried to bury with neon and noise. Kaya heard the hum one night while waiting for the last train. The platform was empty. The lights flickered the way they do when something old is remembering how to wake up. She heard it behind the steel columns, between the tracks. A voice, not shouting, but humming, off-key, wet. And then the whisper came again. You hear it because you're hollow now. She turned, expecting someone. No one, just her own reflection in the subway glass. And behind it, a red door, painted onto the wall. It hadn't been there yesterday. The mural stretched across the entire tunnel. Abstract, crude, a red door, surrounded by shadowy figures kneeling, as if praying to it, or maybe for it to stay closed. But there was something else in the mural. Something below the door, a shape long, curved, buried beneath the painted concrete floor. It looked like a spine. Kaya stepped closer. Her ears rang, not from the train, from beneath the tracks. And then she heard it, knocking. 3 slow knocks, echoing up through the metal rails. She dropped to her knees, pressed her hand to the ground. It was warm, and then the voice returned, not from around her, from underneath her. The cities were built on promises. Every train runs on the back of a buried scream. Kaya stood quickly, backing away, but the mural changed. The kneeling figures now had faces. Her face, all of them, some smiling, some crying, some screaming, and the red door. It had started to open, inch by inch, not on the wall. In the reflection, and in that shifting glass, she saw something inside, a hallway of train tracks, stretching forever downward, lit only by flickering exit signs that led nowhere. Then she heard the train. Fast, too fast. But when she turned, there was no train, only the sound of it crashing. Over and over again. Echoes, a loop, a memory buried under a city that didn't want to be remembered. Kaya ran up the stairs, into the night. But even in the streetlight, she could hear it beneath her feet. The hum, the sound of the world remembering what it was built on. She looked at her palm. Lines of black dust, metal shavings, tracks, 4 men. Inside her, Episode 7 Don't answer the doorbell at 3:07 a.m. Kaya hadn't slept in 2 days, not because of fear, because of the doorbell. It rang every night. Same time, 3:07 a.m., one chime, then silence. No one at the door, no footprints in the hallway, no sound on the cameras. She unplugged it. It still rang. She removed the wires. It still rang. She smashed the chime against the wall. It still rang. She asked her neighbors if they heard anything. They looked at her too long, too blank, like they were trying to forget something she had reminded them of. One woman finally whispered, "Don't answer it. My brother did. We buried what came back in his place." Kaya started staying up with the lights on, but the ringing got closer. Not just the bell. Her phone buzzed at 3:07. The microwave beeped 3 times at 3:07. Her heartbeat slowed at 3:07, and she could feel it sensing with something outside. Waiting, knocking, waiting, knocking. Then came the dream. She was in her hallway, naked, holding a candle. The flame bent toward the front door, which pulsed like it was breathing. There was a knock, 3 times. Then a voice, "You're home now. Let yourself in." She woke with blood in her mouth, not hers, and fingerprints on her bedroom door. 3 of them pressed in from the inside. The next night, she set up a camera, Saturday in the kitchen with a knife. Waited. At 3:07 a.m., the doorbell rang, but this time, she didn't move. The video feed showed nothing but Kaya. Kaya saw herself at the door, identical, but pale, still, with empty hands and a wider smile. She didn't knock. She leaned in and whispered, without moving her mouth, "The you that opened the first door isn't you anymore. I am." Then she vanished. The doorbell melted, literally, plastic and metal dripping down the wood like tears. That morning, Kaya checked the hallway. Her neighbors' doors were gone. In their place, red doors with no knobs, painted shut, but breathing. And from every peephole, she could feel them watching her. Not with malice, not with curiosity, with hunger, as if she were the final version of something they had been waiting to become. She closed her door, Saturday on the floor, stared at her hands. They were shaking, not with fear, with anticipation, because deep inside her chest, beneath the rhythm of her breath, a new sound had started to form. A bell, faint, rhythmic, always on time. 3:07 a.m., everywhere, forever. Episode 8 The Woman Who Burned All Her Mirrors. She lived in the abandoned wing of a nursing home. No name on file, no birth certificate, just a note in the intake log. She sees too much. They called her Marla. At least, that's what was stitched into her gown. But she hadn't answered to it in years. Not since the mirror started speaking back. Kaya found her after a string of anonymous emails. No sender, no subject, just a photo, attachment, an old woman sitting in a room surrounded by smoke, and the smoldering frames of a dozen broken mirrors. The message below it, she knows what's behind them, so she set them on fire. Kaya had learned to follow the strange now. The signals, the static, the echoes in her teeth. The nursing home was supposed to be locked, but the doors opened when she arrived. They always did. She found Marla in room 319. No windows, one candle, and a floor covered in ash. The woman looked at Kaya, not her face, but her reflection in the metal bed frame, and she whispered, "You've already let them through. I can see the hallway in your pupils." Kaya didn't speak. She was used to being seen, but not like this. Marla stood slowly, frail bones crackling like old wood. She pointed to a single mirror left, intact, covered with a sheet. "They can't come through unless you look. That's the rule. That's the trap. Reflections are how they learn your shape." Kaya approached. The sheet fluttered on its own, just slightly, and she heard it, "Manak." From inside the glass, Marla screamed, lunging forward. "Don, T, look. Once they learn your outline, they draw the door around it." But it was too late. The sheet slipped. The mirror revealed not Kaya, but a version of her standing in a hallway of mirrors, each one reflecting a different door, some open, some bleeding, some on fire. And her reflection smiled, the kind of smile that didn't belong on a face. Too wide, too calm, and it whispered, "You've made it this far. Why stop before the threshold?" Kaya blinked, and the mirror shattered, not from impact, from rejection. Glass fell in slow motion, each shard humming the same phrase over and over. "She's almost ready. She's almost ready. She's almost." Marla collapsed. Kaya caught her. The old woman smiled, blood in her teeth, tears in her voice. "You're not cursed, child. You're chosen. You're not the one opening the doors anymore." She touched Kaya's chest, over her heart, over the quiet knot pulsing beneath her skin. "You are the door." Episode 9 Every city has one. It was no longer just Chicago. No longer just Kaya. The red doors were everywhere. Abandoned warehouses in Tokyo, drainage tunnels in Berlin, a church floorboard that lifted itself in Lagos, a locked basement in a Paris bookstore where the door had no handle, only a mouth. Kaya tracked them in secret forums, hidden audio threads, videos that vanished after a single view. People spoke in code. The frame has bled. She saw the third hinge. My neighbor opened one and speaks backwards now. Some doors appeared on ceilings, others deep in forests where no paths existed. One even opened on a flight, mid-air. No survivors. Kaya had stopped eating, stopped sleeping. She had started sketching like Simon. Red ink only, pages and pages of variations of the door, as if the shapes were choosing themselves through her hand. Some had symbols etched into them, some were bound in rope, some had human fingers instead of knobs, but all of them breathed. One night, Kaya played a voicemail that hadn't been left. Her phone never rang, no notification, but the message was there. A man's voice, tired, frantic, whispering in Morse between words. I opened mine in Sao Paulo. There was a woman inside, but she wore my mother's voice like a coat. She asked for your name, Kaya. He started crying. You don't understand. They aren't just watching. They're mapping us. Every city that has one is a mouth. And every time someone opens a door, static, screeching. 10. They build another. Kaya stood at a rooftop in Milwaukee. Why there? She didn't know. She just felt it. The pull, the pressure in her teeth, the throb of the invisible hallway beneath her skin. And when she looked over the edge, there it was, a red door, standing in the alley below, just waiting, but not for her to enter, waiting for her to finally admit she didn't need to open them anymore. She called them now, and they were listening. That night, she dreamt of all the cities at once, 12 of her, each in a different place, each standing before a door. All the versions of her reached out together, and in unison, the doors whispered, soon, Kaya, soon. The cities won't remember having names, only in treeways. Episode 10. The architects beneath us. Cities are built on plans, blueprints, foundations, but beneath every foundation, there's something older than maps, older than language, older than memory. Kaya followed the sound, not footsteps, not whispers, but scraping, like bone dragging against stone, like something building with its hands. She found the entrance in the abandoned subway line. The one sealed after the accident no one could explain. Concrete poured over it, steel welded shut, but the door still opened when she touched it. Of course it did. She wasn't a visitor anymore. She was part of the design. The tunnel didn't feel man-made, too narrow, too smooth, too warm, and the walls pulsed. Breathing, remembering, she walked for hours, or maybe minutes. Time broke down, here, like sound in a dream. Eventually, she found them. The architects, not people. Not creatures, not gods. They moved like reflections in water, bending without breaking, bodies too long, arms made of blueprints and ash. They didn't speak, but she knew them. They were the ones who designed the doors. Each city had a set, each soul had a doorway waiting. She watched them draw, fingers etched into the stone, symbols that rearranged themselves as she looked. They were building something, not a building, not a church. A map made of people, and her name pulsed at the center. Kaya, final draft. Last hallway before collapse. One of the architects turned. Its face had her eyes, and it smiled, not with kindness, but with understanding. You came early, it whispered, but that's what doors do. They open before you're ready. Another voice, deeper, behind her now. You thought you opened the first door, Kaya, but the first door opened you. She turned. No one, only a mirror, standing upright in the dirt, its frame made of teeth. In the reflection, she saw herself, but her skin was translucent. Inside her chest, a hallway of red doors, all closed, all breathing, and from each door leaked names. Names of people Kaya had passed on the street, treated at the hospital, forgotten. The architects began to hum, low, like mourning, and one final line appeared, carved into the dirt before her feet. When the last door opens, the city forgets it ever had streets. Kaya backed away, climbed out. The city above was quieter, the lights dimmer, the sky thinner. And as she walked through the street, she realized every building now had a door. Every window reflected a version of her. The architects weren't just building beneath the city. They were building through her. Episode 11. They were never human. Kaya stopped answering to her name because others had started using it wrong. Too easily, too early. Her neighbor smiled at her one morning and said, "Welcome back, Kaya." But Kaya hadn't seen her in weeks. The barista at a corner cafe, someone she'd never met, said, Your usual? Kaya. But she never told them who she was. Even the mirror in her apartment began whispering. Kaya is just a costume. You were something else before the city named you. The red doors had gone quiet. No new ones. Not in the alleys. Not in the tunnels. Not in her dreams. But she felt them watching from beneath her skin. Waiting. Studying. Then came the video. Anonymous. No metadata. Just a timestamp. 3:07 a.m. A court v fade. A subway station in Kiev. The train arrives. Passengers walk out. One woman pauses. Looks up at the camera. Smiles. It's Kaya. But Kaya hasn't left Chicago. She hasn't even slept. And is Kaya on the screen? Blinks twice. Then a third set of eyelids closes from the sides. That night, Kaya found fingerprints on her windows. From the inside. And every photo she'd ever taken of herself. On her phone. In old journals. Even childhood albums. Had changed. Same background. Same framing. But the woman in the photo wasn't her. Not exactly. Just off. Like an actor wearing her smile too tightly. The worst part, they were smiling before the photo was taken. She returned to the hospital. Her old locker. Inside, a note she didn't remember writing. They're not replacing us. They're remembering what we were before we became people. Her pulse began to double. She checked it. Steady. Too steady. She wasn't breathing. But she didn't feel lightheaded. Her reflection didn't blink when she did. And the knot began again. 3 times. Inside her chest. She collapsed in the stairwell. When she came to, a man in a maintenance uniform stood over her. No name tag. No face she could remember. But his eyes were empty. Not blind. Just waiting to be filled. He spoke. They were never human. Kaya. Not you. Not them. Just doors. Shaped like people. She tried to speak. But her voice cracked like an old hinge. He leaned closer. You didn't open the door. The door opened you. And now you're starting to remember the shape of what you really are. He walked away, melted into the wall, not vanished, absorbed. Kaya looked down at her hands. The skin was pale, but underneath, red lines pulsed, glowing, breathing, blueprints. And in her reflection, the eyes blinked out of sync. One, then the other, then neither, and the face smiled, not with joy, with recognition. Episode 12. The door inside her chest. Kaya used to dream in silence. Now, she dreams in blueprints. Every time she blinks, a new wall draws itself inside her skull. Every time she breathes, her ribs creak like hinges. She doesn't bleed anymore. She leaks ink, thick and red, like someone rewrote her from the inside out. The knock inside her chest hasn't stopped. 3 beats, pause, 3 beats, like it's trying to come out. She tries to scream, but her throat echoes, not with sound, with space, as if her lungs aren't organs anymore, but hallways. She goes to the church, not to pray, to remember, because that's what the voices want. The pews are empty, the crucifix has turned around, and every stained glass window reflects the same thing. Not the church, not the street outside, but a single red door, slowly swinging open, over and over and over. She kneels at the altar, not out of faith, but out of collapse, and from somewhere beneath the floorboards, the door knocks back. That night, Kaya feels the change begin. She vomits up keys, rusty, ancient, still warm, each one marked with a city, name, places she's never been. Her skin begins to split at the seams, not tearing, unzipping. From her collarbone downward, a thin line of red appears, vertical, pulsing. It's not a wound, it's a threshold. She looks in the mirror. For the first time, she doesn't see herself. She sees a door, and it's glowing from the inside. She opens her mouth, and hears laughter, not hers, not human, a chorus of voices. She never gave permission to live in her bones. The cities don't need buildings anymore. They whisper, they just need her. She walks through the streets barefoot. No one sees her, no one remembers her, because she's no longer a person. She's an idea, an entry point, a memory that learned how to walk. The final transformation happens at 3:07 a.m. Of course it does. She's in her apartment, standing in front of her closet. Nothing remarkable, except now, the door inside her chest begins to open. Not violently, not suddenly, but deliberately. From her sternum, a seam spreads. Light spills through, red, pulsing, alive. Behind the light, a hallway, and at the end of it, 100 cities kneel, all of them breathing, all of them waiting. And from behind her, a whisper, you are no longer the one who walks through the doors. You are the one they walk through. Episode 13. The final door faces us. The cities have stopped moving. Traffic lights flicker on streets with no cars. Phones ring in empty apartments. the wind hums in the key of a forgotten prayer. And everywhere, the red doors stand open. Some lean against alley walls. Some float to inches above water. One swings gently in the middle of Times Square. Another was seen in the reflection of the moon. But the door that matters most, the one that doesn't belong to any city, is the one that now faces you. Kaya no longer walks among us. She is among us. In cracks between buildings. In the echo of a knock you thought you imagined. In that strange hallway you swear wasn't there yesterday. She no longer has a heartbeat. She has a threshold. And when she opens her eyes, now, cities blink. When she speaks, mirrors fog. When she weeps, doors multiply. You're not watching a story anymore. You're inside it. The rules are different now. They've always been. You thought doors were for exiting. You thought legends were made up. You thought your name was yours. Look behind you. Go ahead. Nothing. That's what Kaya saw the first time, too. Until the knock came. Until the door wasn't behind her anymore. It was inside her. This is the final episode. But the door hasn't closed. It doesn't need to. Because now you carry it. In your chest. In your dreams. In the part of your mind that's too quiet to trust. And if you hear a knock at 3:07 a.m., just once, just 3 times, just a little too close, don't open it, don't answer it, don't turn around. Because if you do, she'll walk through, and when she does, you won't scream, you smile, because she's not a stranger. She's the hallway you've always felt inside you, waiting.